welcome back to kind of almost the end of Skyrim for us. I'm now talking to you in an Oblivion released world. And many of you are asking, like, when are we going to try Oblivion? Are you going to go straight into Oblivion? We are going to be checking, you're the first to hear over on the TDP, we are going to be checking it out on Friday because a certain company is very interested in seeing what I think going from Skyrim to the remastered Oblivion. I was not planning on playing it. That was actually my first thoughts, is I was not going to be playing this until everybody had sunk their teeth in, had fun with it. There'd been a majority of mods out. There's already tons and tons of them. But we got reached out to last night and they were like, we would really like to see what Mike would do with Oblivion after he's just played Skyrim. So I was like, all right, we'll have a look at it on Friday. Not saying we're going to do a full playthrough, but we're certainly going to be checking it out then. So I was like, okay, sure. I get it. I totally get it. So we'll be doing that on Friday. But that meant that we were wrapping up storylines in Skyrim that were the ones we wanted to check out. The Thieves Guild. Now, I had, of course, ignored the Thieves Guild because sneaking is not one of my fortes. I can do it when forced to do it, and it's not like I have some sort of mental block on what's supposed to happen. I just am so impatient that when you slow gameplay down to literally a crawl in some games, I'm just like, I just want to kill everybody and get on with it and get moving. It's a pro in many ways. It's enabled me to be a very efficient tank for like more than a decade in MMOs. But when it comes to, you know, top of my list is not Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell of games to play, right? I've got to shoot all the lights out. I know people love it. I'm not mocking it. It's just, it's not for me. So I had ignored the Thieves Guild. However, I was prodded heavily. It's like, it's a really good story. First of all, you're a liar. This story is terrible. Really bad. It's a mixed bag is what I would say. Because there are some really nice touches where they've like tried to take some care to drop hints and things that something more is going on. But the execution, let's say it leaves a lot to be desired here. A lot to be desired. I was actually very confused with the Thieves Guild at first because I was checking it out and I'd been down to the Ratway many, many times, which is their guild hideout. And nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody wanted to do a damn thing. And it was just a case of you were lacking the precursor quest, which, okay, sure, I would have preferred if the guys down there were like, you know, maybe you should go and see blah, blah, blah and talk to them. And, you know, something like that, because they were just really ignorant to me when I was walking around their base I'm like, in the past. But we got on with it to go and see the Thieves Guild. Interestingly enough, the quest to join the Thieves Guild is not the quest to start the Thieves Guild. You actually end up doing a quest that I really didn't want to do, which is to set up and frame a member of the market who, for all intents and purposes, I think he's called Medosi. He's a really nice guy. And I was like, no, you're just a jerk. Why would I want to frame this guy and set him up and steal from him and all that kind of thing? And again, it's the Dark Elves. Racism and is a rife topic in Skyrim, which is relevant, so it makes sense. It's not handled in a horrible way, but you very regularly come against people who just hate certain people. Do they need to always generally be the Dark Elves? I don't know. But a lot of people tell us like the Dark Elves have a very bad history. I'm like, okay, sure. And so I was like, okay, I have to do this quest to get things going here, to get the ball rolling. So reluctantly, I went ahead with it. Okay, so we're now in the Thieves Guild. I kind of want to just talk about the story a little bit. Like, gameplay-wise, it was fine. I have sneak level 20. For context, my two-hander is 100. And basically that sneak has been picked up from books for the most part. And I wear heavy armor, which I found out is not a good thing. Because you're clanking around, apparently, and making a ton of noise. So I did end up swapping armors every now and again to, like, the Thieves' armor and things like that to try and nullify that a little bit. But ultimately, I did a couple of missions stealthily. I did achieve it, and it led to all sorts of crazy jank. Really crazy jank. It was actually nice. There was quite a few very hardcore Skyrim vets who've been watching along with this playthrough, and they were like, yeah, this bit doesn't work, like, at all without invisibility potions, or you can spend, like, 4 days quick loading to each section that you move through, so I just didn't bother with those, and ended up murdering my way through. But the story is you're brought into the Thieves Guild, and very quickly, you're given more rules than I think Skyrim operates under. I was like, well, what? Aren't we like the thieves? And they're like, well, there's a code of honor and all this kind of stuff. And if you betray the guild, you will be ousted and banished, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like I can literally murder people in the streets of the city and have less repercussions than being part of Thieves Guild. So that was an interesting introduction to it. But essentially we get some nice set pieces. It feels like they were going to try and input essentially like a Hitman style the game thief type operation into the game. You know, sneak into a compound, get some, crack a safe, do something like that to try and create this element. I think the gameplay of Skyrim doesn't really accommodate it, but it's okay enough if you want to do it. And they get away with it by having like high sneak and just flat out reducing the chances of people seeing you, which is fine. It's totally fine. It didn't work for me. I killed a lot of people. And then I got in big trouble because one of the missions was to break into a safe, deal with the owner to find out who has been... The premise of the story was somebody is definitely doing something sus with local businesses, like buying them up and things. Who's doing this? Because it's getting a little weird, because they're all encroaching on our territory. So it's like, okay. And then you must burn the beehives. There was a very key part of this. Because it said burn 3 out of 3, which I was like, oh, that's the, you know, you want to set fire to some. But apparently they did tell me, it's like, don't burn them all, because we actually earn money from this business. That's why we're curious as to who's acquired this business, because this is part of our operation. But in my haste, I burnt everything. I got in big trouble for this. I actually liked it. It was nice. It was like, you jerk. No, we told you specifically not. I was like, did you? I was like, genuinely, I forgot what was going on. And it actually carried on with a character called Maven Blackbriar, who I was very interested in, because when I first met her a long time ago in Riften, she was really rude to me, and I was like, something's going on with this character. Sadly, didn't play too much of a role in this, unfortunately. I was very excited for this at first, but she was also like, you're the idiot who burnt all the bees. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. She's like, seriously, if you screw up again, you're out. You are flat out of us. I'm like, all right. I think this is the first hint of the good little touches in here, is that there are very obvious items in the places that you go and do your sneaking missions that stand out. They're usually like shimmering gold or something. And they are items that are specifically placed there if you're doing the thief stuff to give you an extra reward and payoff to the fence. So it's nice. They put a little thought into that. It's like, oh yeah, you would steal something to fence it off because I found this while I was in this guy's mansion or whatever. And the second one was to... somebody had bought the local pub, essentially, the meadery, and now we're going to run a protection racket, essentially, is we're going to get rid of the owner and put our own plant in there. And also, it's been acquired, so we need to get rid of the owner by sabotaging him, and then we're going to take over the business, and now it's going to be our business, and we can find out what the hell has been going on here, because this is important to our trade as well. So whether we're in like a moonshine gig or something like that. All this made good sense. The brewery itself had a cave that went down like to the core of the earth, filled with a crazy man who was raising a rat army. I was like, this is a really just... I've managed. Some of you will know I was a manager of various nightclubs before I became a streamer. And I was like, this would not pass code. To have this enormous cave filled with rats and spiders that just like leaks into the cellar, that wouldn't work in the UK. I kept my cellars pristine. My cellars were, you could eat down there. They were gorgeous. I always took care of my cellars and made sure they were squeaky clean. I was like, this is actually annoying me on a personal level or a professional level, is how bad this is. But we take over there and we find out there is somebody buying this, and now we need to find out who it is, which then led to a lot of other visiting people who were mediaries and intermediate parties and things like that. And also ultimately we find out about Karita, I'm terrible with names, who is behind it, who talks like this all the time. Because it's the end of the world. And we need to figure it out. And I was like, ooh, here's the lady. And we go back to the Thieves Guild and we're like, this is the lady. And she's like, oh my God. The Nightingale. The frigging Nightingales. I cannot even tell you how annoying this was. What is a nightingale? Don't say a bird. What is it? They just don't tell you. And it was bugging the hell out of me because these guys are going, my God, a nightingale. We can't kill a nightingale. They're trained beyond all record. I'm like, why? Why? Who are the Nightingales? Who are these people? They're like, they're part of the Thieves Guild. I'm like, so are they just really good thieves? No, they're nightingales. I'm like, what is happening here? What is going on? I do eventually find out in the most obnoxious way But the storyline now revolves heavily around the Nightingales and these characters such as Mercer and Brynolf. And Mercer, who is like, we must bring down Karaita or whatever she's called. She's super deadly, and she killed our former leader, Gallus, who was also a Nightingale. She betrayed the oath of the Brotherhood of the Thieves and the Nightingales. And I'm like, ooh, okay. And then we got some nice plot twists along the way. Is that that's not true. And it was actually Mercer who killed him and blamed it all on her. And she got banished and ousted. And now she's been buying the businesses because she's trying to get back and like free the Thieves Guilds and restore order to the Nightingales. Blah, 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 blah. This is all going on. So now we need to set Mercer up. The good touches. This is where we had some good touches. Is throughout this campaign, when you work with Mercer, he does things that by the time you're doing this quest line, you should definitely recognize are a little weird. You can open any lock. Even ones that you blatantly shouldn't be able to open. Like, he solves a crow's foot quest line. He opens, like, a dwarven cube. Certainly the things I've done, I was like, that's really weird. Like, you have to do a lot of stuff to open those things. And he's just so skilled. And initially you're like, oh, he's just really, really good at picking locks. Like, he's got a technique you don't have. Because you keep coming up against these doors that it just says, you need a key to open this. Which is not... it's not unfamiliar to anybody who's been playing the game, and he's dropping these, like, he can just unlock it, and you're like, oh, cool. And it turns out later on there's a reason for that. Ooh. So now we know Mercer's bad, and as we go back to the Thieves Guild, we bring Catra with us, and we've got Mercer's journal, and it's revealed to the rest of the thieves. It's like, Mercer's a jerk. And why is he a jerk? He's just been stealing all our money. So they're like, we should check the money, because they literally have a vault full of treasure, and they open it up, and it's like, oh, all the money is gone. Everything is gone. God damn it. Everything is gone. We should have probably been keeping an eye on this, but nope, we haven't, and he's stolen everything. And it's, why would he do this? Why would he do this? And he's trying to steal. He's acquired something called the Skeleton Key. And now it all makes sense why he was able to open all his locks. It's the most sacred item of the Thieves Guild, and it was provided to them by Nocturnal or Nocturne. I think Nocturne's League of Legends. Nocturnal, who is like their Daedric, the Daedric god of luck. I was like, right? Now, I said the story was executed badly. In between everything I'm telling you, which is the story of what's going on here, and my thoughts on it, constantly, it completely counteracts what is happening in the game. So just bear that in mind. Like, throughout this, Catra or whatever is constantly telling you to do things that you physically can't do yet. There was a period of time, even just with simple dialogue, where she was moaning at me relentlessly for not wearing the Nightingale armor. Before you get it, like a long time before you get it, and she's like, why aren't you wearing, is there something wrong with you? Why aren't you wearing Nightingale armor? I'm like, we haven't got it yet. Like, you're taking us to do it. And the most interesting one for me, which really ruined any immersion you could have for this, is you meet with Nocturnal. And it turns out that you are being brought into the Nightingales, and the Nightingales are the guardians of the tomb. Two things here. One, the idea is that by being loyal to Nightingale, it increases your luck, which means, like, and the example they use is, have you ever noticed that sometimes you're going to steal from a blind man and he turns and looks at you? That's bad luck. And other times you'll slip away unseen even though there's 1,000 guards around. That's Nocturnal's influence upon you. Okay. And then we end up selling our souls for eternity to Nocturnal for a bit of luck. And I'm like, this seems like a lot. And it's even worse for the other guy. I think it's Brynolf, who's becoming a Nightingale with us. He's selling his soul for eternity to Nocturnal. Not for any luck or anything, but just so he can go and kill Mercer. Like, bro, that's kind of a lot, dude. Now, here's the weirder thing. She has brought us here to become Nightingales and commit our souls for eternity to Nocturnal because she goofed up in the past, which led to the death of Gallus and the rise of Mercer, right? So this is all revealed during the Become Nightingale questline. And she stood there, and Nocturnal literally says to her, is like, okay, we have resolved your previous issue. Never do this again. Never disappoint me again, blah, blah, blah. She's like, okay, we've got that all cleared up. Literally 5 minutes later, she refuses to see Nocturnal because she has upset Nocturnal in the past. Like, we literally just resolved this. Like, Nocturnal's chill with you now. Like, and she's like, no, I cannot go on this mission with you. Because in the past, I disappointed Nocturnal. And I daren't stand in Nocturnal's presence ever again. You're like, no, we just were there. We were like, literally, there was all these kinds of things happening that would just took me out of it. And I'm sure, like, if you do a little bit of mental gymnastics, you'd be like, well, you know, she's resolved it, but she doesn't want to, like, she doesn't dare show her face. You could try and write some sort of fan-fiction-y type answer to what's going on here. But either way, no. No, it didn't make sense to me. Which then led to the final showdown with Mercer, where we move forwards with this and go for the kill. I thought this was one of the better set pieces. Again, up and down. Execution of story, not good. The actual stuff they had you doing, though, was really cool. He's stealing the eye of Nocturnal, essentially. Or a Falmer eye, actually. He's stealing this Falmer eye, and you fight him and kill him. He's very weak physically, so I boshed him to death. But the room's filling with water, and you've got to make an escape, and you've got to do all these kinds of things. And I thought, this is really awesome. It's got this, like, very Indiana Jones feel to what is happening here. And it works. It works really well. From a gameplay standpoint, I enjoyed the hell out of this, which I imagine most people remember this for. Because I cannot tell you, after doing Dark Brotherhood yesterday, which was awesome, to what this was, it was such a mixed bag. And the comment we got regularly, and I felt it too, is that actually Serana, our vampire follower, saved a lot of the goofiness that was happening with the story. In particular, during the Nightingale ceremony, I don't know how they've programmed Serana's AI, but she can't stand still. She has to be doing something. And so she just constantly just walks around. And at one point, she nearly pushed me out of the cutscene and off a cliff while I was stuck in a cutscene. I couldn't move. And she just walks around. She stares at you and all this. And it was kind of fun because what was actually happening was really silly. I was like, are we really selling our souls for eternity for this? I've only just found out what this is. And it's not the best thing. You're the guardian of Nocturnal's tomb, essentially, forever and in the afterlife. I'm like, for some luck, maybe. And they even address this as like, it's luck. See, what did she say? Catra says something like, volumes and volumes have been written over the effects of Nocturnal. And the examples or coincidences of luck that we feel Nocturnal's hand has had an influence in. But ultimately, we have no idea if it does anything at all. I don't know about you, but I'm not signing up for that for eternity. I'm not signing up for that for eternity. That's a hard pass for me. That's going to be a no. But she does exist. Like, Nocturnal absolutely exists. Like, we speak to her. I was like, this doesn't sound like a good deal, if I'm being honest with you. It doesn't sound like a good deal. But ultimately, we did finish it. And I became the leader of the Thieves Guild, which was nice. Like, it was fun. Like, gameplay-wise, I had a lot of fun with this. Like, I did. Story-wise, very, very weak, with a lot of Bethesda jank on top of it. Sorry, Bethesda. I know you've been watching. With a lot of Bethesda jank on top of it. That's added some flavor and made it fun, but also was like, you know, a thumbs down on the overall what's going on here. I'd be curious to see if any of you played this a very long time ago. You're like, the Thieves Guild was awesome. It's like, go back and try it again and kind of pay attention to what's going on. And maybe I'm wrong, because I've done it once. And I'm missing something, but I can say a lot of people were on board with me with what was happening here. I'm like, I'm not sure about this. But that's cool. And that leaves us with a couple of things to do before we dip our toes into Oblivion, which is going to be the main story and Dragonborn. So we have listened to what you guys have been saying. It's like, do the main story first, then do Dragonborn. So that's going to be our next goal, is to do main story and Dragonborn, and maybe a couple of little side bits with the Daedric gods or Daedric princes that are of relevance before we kind of come to an end here. I know some of you are like, why aren't you just playing it all? You're having fun. I am. I'm having an absolute blast with it. I just don't think this ever ends. And ultimately, there's more things we want to do. And not 100%ing it is fine with me. Because there's a lot of stuff that's just flavor and filler. And basically breadcrumbs to go do dungeon. That's cool too. That's really, really cool. And I'm awesome with that. But I do think it's, you know, if we wanted to like 100% everything that's currently in the game, we'd probably be here for another couple of weeks, maybe 3. which is a little long considering the cool things that are coming up and what we're doing. At some point, we do have to put a full stop in it, and very rarely do we 100% a game, so don't feel like I'm mistreating it in any way. All right, so that's where we're up to, and the main story is going to be next, so I'll have a sort of conclusion on how they affected their main story in this framework game to have fun with. So I'll see you then. Bye, guys.